It's not often that a project can get so popular so quickly. And today I'm interviewing Austin Condiff, who created a very popular project on GitHub, which gained about 7,000 stars in just 1 month. And without further ado, Austin Condiff, the stage is yours.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Just to give you a little introduction about me, I'm a creative UI developer living in the Dallas-Fort Worth area with my wife and 2 kids. We really like it out here. So I've, just to let you know how I got started in UI design and development. When I was about 14 years old, my parents had a small photography business, and they asked me if I would like to design and develop a website for them. And I was really interested in computers at the time, so I gladly agreed to do that. And I really loved the journey that through learning and understanding everything that I needed to in order to create a website for them. And after I got the website done for them, other family friends really, really liked what I had done, and I started getting more clients, and that little freelance business that I got started lasted me through high school. And one of my clients that I had hired me on as an intern. He worked at the University of Texas, and that kind of launched my career. It later turned into a full-time role. And since then, I've been working for Fortune 500 companies such as Ancestry.com, Intuit, USAA, and Verizon.
And so mainly the US firms.
Yes, correct.
So thanks so much. And what puzzles me is how your project got so popular. If you think about, like, for each project, there is like sort of some limit on how big it can get. Like, for example, React projects usually get really popular because there are so many developers using them, and with Java project it's not that much, and Swift is probably somewhere in between. My library calendar kit has about 2,000 stars, but it took about 5 years to get there. And your project had like 7,000 stars in just a month. So what's going on there? And what's most important, there are so many other editors there. So VS Code, insanely popular, Sublime Text, Atom. Why CodeEdit is so popular? What do you think driving it?
Yeah, no, there are certainly a lot of successful editors out there, without a doubt. But I think with CodeEdit, we've identified a gap in the space, and we're trying to fill that gap. And I've come to absolutely adore the experience that you get with macOS. The amount of care and design Apple has put into the details really amazes me, especially in the last few releases. Yet there's no editor aside from Xcode that really embraces that macOS user experience, and I think that's really sad. So instead, many of them opt to use Electron to build these editors using web technologies, which doesn't really allow them to offer that familiar experience you get with something natively written. But most importantly, perhaps, something that is natively written will have huge performance gains over any application built using Electron, hands down. It's able to utilize all of the system resources in their entirety, which something that we really need to be giving our developers. Um, I think this project has grown as a result of that. It's a result of people. Um, I think people really resonate with this message that's explained in the README, it's something that developers crave, and something that we really hope to achieve with CodeEdit. Just the we're we're planning on being able to uh, unlock your system resources, and I think that's a huge thing that developers really need, because I don't think that is something that is able to do right now. When you take VS Code, for example, it's it's a great tool. Don't get me wrong, and I think that they're doing the best that they can. But with Electron, it's a uh, it's limited to Chromium, really, and I think that's a huge limitation, because Chromium is not capable, to my knowledge, of using your resources to its fullest potential, especially given uh, Apple's latest release of the M1 chips. I mean, they're incredibly powerful. I have a MacBook Pro with M1 Max chip in it, and most things perform very well. But when it comes to VS Code, for example, I am writing some code, and I see that my linter underlines some code, uh, and I type some more code, and um, it's still there. And so I'm sitting there trying to fix this code that later I find about 20 to 30 seconds later, it just removes the underline. And so it's because the linter was stalled, that it was catching up with itself. And so if we were able to give the developers back that time that they would have otherwise been spent waiting and trying to solve something that didn't exist in the first place, I think that could be huge.
Well, you have some valid points, but I do agree and disagree with you at the same time. First of all, there is a huge gap between really well-made apps and bad apps. Just to compare, I also have the Apple Silicon 16-inch, and on that, I compared, let's say, Microsoft Teams and Figma.
Hmm.
Both are developed with the web technologies, and Figma just crazily fast. It's a pleasure to use. It's really fast, really easy to work with, very responsive. On the Microsoft Teams, for example, it takes like forever to find some obscure conversation or search, and usually it's faster to just scroll through the conversation to find a very specific detail that you're looking for than to use search, and it's just painfully slow. I wish I didn't use I just didn't use the software. So there is some margin between like a good and bad applications, but definitely I agree with you that if you go native, you have that edge and you can go a bit further. What I mean is that you have this more direct control, and you have more, let's say, more response with the end user. And I think that's sort of you mentioned in a way, but not directly. And what's like the Apple design? You say like you like the Xcode a lot. Like, what did you like in Xcode that made you go this route?
Right. Um, just to go back on that question about Microsoft Teams and Figma. Uh, Teams is, first of all, Teams is a smaller application dealing with mostly messaging. And so you're able to get higher speeds with that. Not to say that Electron is bad, because you can certainly get high performance with things like that. It's mostly in tools that are that require larger amounts of performance. Figma does require a large amount of performance, but Figma is also written in WebAssembly. If you download their desktop application, the underlying tool performs very well, very smooth. But as soon as you start resizing that window, you'll start noticing a lot of lag. And that is because it is hosted, or it's housed in a Chromium shell. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I actually noticed that I use Figma in the web browser. I never installed the app itself.
Yeah. To address your other point about Xcode, we are using Xcode in CodeEdit as a baseline. We're not trying to copy it, but we're trying to use it as a baseline, because that is the pattern put in place by Apple to edit code, and we want to really provide an experience that Apple could get behind. We want to make this feel like Apple designed this themselves, and in order to do that, we would have to pull from existing patterns that have been set forth.
Yeah, in a way, if you think about the Apple design in general and Apple's human interface guidelines, which is a set of rules or let's say guidelines they publish for developers, there aren't much written in them, and they are very, very vague. So I guess a lot of inspiration is coming from other apps, and like in my opinion, the whole idea of Apple ecosystem is that it's not about the power of specific apps, but more about the using some patterns in all of them, so that the user, once comfortable in one application, goes into the, let's say, comfortable in the accounting software, goes into the presentation software, and can do quickly a presentation based on the result he's doing in the accounting software. And that sort of ability to use computer as a tool really powerful, because you have to learn once. And I guess that's sort of the notion with CodeEdit, that once the user understands Xcode, it will be really, really fast to switch to CodeEdit and continue, let's say, but doing slightly different projects. So Xcode is for Apple development, and CodeEdit more for lighter projects, for general text editing. It's fast to start, and it's easy to work with, let's say, web projects.
Yeah, I want to be clear that CodeEdit, the way that we intend to build it, can be for lighter projects, or something simple as text editing. But it can also be powerful enough to become more of an IDE for some of those larger projects that the user has. And so I don't want to necessarily categorize CodeEdit as just a light tool, although that is something that we really hope to achieve. Is we want to make it light, but we also want to make it complex enough to handle the most complex of problems. So.
Yeah, I clearly see that. And in general, what I see is that, like in the last 5 years or 7 years, there has been a trend of getting rid of these large IDEs like Visual Studio or Xcode, and moving towards very, very lightweight editor, but very modularized. So I'll pick just name a few examples like Panic Nova, or JetBrains, who's a developer of very popular Java IDE, IDEA, they are releasing Fleet, very lightweight editor. And of course, the Microsoft with VS Code and GitHub with Atom, they started that trend. And I guess the idea is to have something very, very light shell and spice it up with plugins up to your taste. Why do you think this is happening right now? And do you see this trend continuing or stopping?
No, I think it only can continue because, if you think about it, uh, every developer has their own style of developing. Each project is very unique in its nature. And we want to cater to everything, but we don't want to build everything in the same tool. Now that's something that JetBrains has started with the release of IntelliJ, WebStorm, and all of their other editors. They release editors tailored to each use case. But then I think is what they realized with the release of their newly developed editor Fleet. You need to really make your editor what you want it to be. And so I think the way that you would do that is through extensions. That is something that we're building in right now as extensions. We're working on our extensions API so that developers can go in and build the extensions that they see fit. And then other developers or users of CodeEdit will be able to use those extensions that other developers write to make CodeEdit into something that works for them.
In a way, my friend just told me like that. Which editor? I just asked him if I want to work in React and JavaScript ecosystem. If I want to build, let's say, a portfolio website for myself just for fun, what editor should I try? He's like a front-end developer, and he just said, try VS Code, not because of the VS Code, but just because of the plugins, because of the extensions. That's the power. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and I think there's some limit to what you can build like a vertically. For Xcode, it works. For Visual Studio, it works because the technology stack is all clear and it's always the same. But for the web, you have like Svelte, you have React, you have so many routing libraries for React, and you have so many flavors of JavaScript. You just can't integrate that into one editor.
Absolutely. Not just for the web, but for backend projects as well. And
Yeah.
there are a whole host of other kinds of projects that you can develop and work on. But yes, absolutely. You need to make it modular depending on the use case of the user's needs.
How are we going to achieve this with CodeEdit? Do you have some inspirations for the plugin design or plugin architecture?
We do. We really like Raycast. Raycast has done an absolutely phenomenal job with their extensions ecosystem. They have really focused on developer experience, and that's something that we really strive to follow with CodeEdit. We want to provide a really good developer experience and make it simple and easy to write these extensions so that we can get the most adoption possible, just as Raycast has.
That's a very good thinking because I actually use Raycast on this computer I'm working right now. And with CalendarKit, my calendar library, I also did the same approach. I focused so much on the integration and the ease of initial integration. And because if the people cannot discover the library, they can start working like in 10 minutes, they drop it and look for something else. And
Right.
I think with the editor, it goes a bit further, because if you don't have the extension, if you don't have the extension to solve your problem, you just look for a different editor where that extension exists, right?
Right. Right.
And getting those extensions on board is very important to overall adoption. And Kent mentioned the one of the editors I really like is Sublime Text, but its lack of extension support and lack of modularity is something like there's just not a big ecosystem. There's just not so much available, and that's why I use it just a plain text editor. But nevertheless, it's an amazing text editor. I have like 5 or so text editor installed all the time for different purpose.
Right. Yeah. No, Sublime Text is great. It's written in Python. It's not in Electron, and so it's arguably somewhat faster in some regards. But yeah, the extension architecture or the extension ecosystem, it just isn't there as much as it is in VS Code, and I think that really hurts Sublime Text and their usage statistics. So
Let's say one thing you mentioned is the CodeEdit being at home in Apple ecosystem. And what are the qualities of Apple design to you? What does it mean, like, to have an app designed for Apple and not for Apple?
yeah, Apple design to me uh, is caring about the user experience in a way that most other developers wouldn't attend to that amount of detail. If you notice, Apple puts a tremendous amount of care into their designs to the point where, like I said, a lot of other developers would really see it as a waste of time. But that's something that we really are striving for in CodeEdit. We want to get the details right. Uh, you know, there are tasks that could be considered done, but in my opinion, something's not done until all those little details are accounted for. And so that's something that we really want to try to follow that Apple does in their own design.
Yeah, I think it's a good analogy that I could come up with. Like Steve Jobs said that that the vision for Apple is making the best computer tools. And now that his quote is that computer is like a bicycle for the mind. So there's a very interesting analogy. So the bicycle makes you go really fast and really efficient. But on the other hand, there is this directness of experience. So it's not a car, it's not an airplane, but the bicycle. You feel every stone on the road, and you can sort of control it really precisely.
Yes.
So as soon as that response gets away, as soon as you don't have that directness, you sort of lose the focus. You get distracted, and you don't really feel like you're manipulating the thing, let's say the object on the screen, and you don't feel present. And I guess that's something very important to nail for the code editor.
Absolutely. I mean, that's something that we really that's a problem that we want to solve for our developers. We want to make them the most efficient as possible. And if you think about it, what is that efficiency in the work that developers do? In at least for me, there are moments where I am in the zone, so to speak, and we want to help users to stay in that zone as much as possible. And so if we think about uh, what is it that knocks a developer out of that zone, it could be poor usability patterns. It could be uh, long processes and in-performant things like your ESLint taking a long time. It could be something taking a long time to save, or something taking a long to highlight syntax.
Or just
Code,
scroll.
or scroll for that matter. Yeah, exactly. And so those are something, and staying focused, like social media is a big distraction, and that's not necessarily something that we will be solving for. I think Apple's done a great job with their focus modes, and that will help that for sure. But yeah, we want to keep our users in the zone as much as possible, and make them more efficient. And I think we have some pretty good ideas to do that.
Yeah, if you think about like those keyboard shortcuts, every editor has some sort of own flavor, and it's interesting to think like a lot of projects in general, not even text editors, they think, right, if I'm developing the text editor, the shortcuts should be the same on Mac, on Windows, and on Linux, because that's the one product. But it turns out that the person never uses those two other platforms. He just works on one of them, and seems that all of the apps that he installs on the machine are clashing and using some sort of own pattern. It's common. It could be refined to the very tiny detail across the whole product portfolio for each platform, but it clashes in between other apps. So in a way, you use one key combo to copy on one app and another one to paste into another app, and this is sort of adds this mental stress in a way that you need to think about and you don't really feel. And you have to like refocus and think, all right, what I was doing actually there is something different than I'm trying to like achieve. I guess that's one of the parts, like that the apps work together well.
Yeah, I think that's a very important thing to consider, is the user's cognitive load, and I think that there are some things as application designers that we really need to do to be responsible, uh, to to reduce that cognitive load that we place on our users. And so we want to be cautious about that. And if there are things that we can do to shorten a process, or reduce the amount of screens that are required to achieve the same goal, I think we need to do that. And that will eventually start, those things will start adding up, and you'll get a much smoother user experience than if you didn't really consider that in the first place.
And speaking of cognitive load, I mean, this is for you pretty much the new project in Swift. How do you feel about that? Like, was it easy? Was it difficult to start coming from the JavaScript background into Apple, into Swift development? And what kind of differences you feel so far?
That's an excellent question. So yeah, I do have a JavaScript background, and coming to Swift, there are some things that are completely foreign to me. Um,
For example,
um, for example, just how things are structured, how things are written, the um, various patterns you would use to implement things are just very different from that uh, of JavaScript. It's not a bad thing. It's just something
just
that
different.
I'm not used to, and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so and then you get that with every language, every new language that you'd pick up. But I really like it. It's a really intuitive language. I think Swift UI, which we're trying to use some, I think that gets a lot of flack in the community. I think Apple is constantly working on improving it, and I look forward to this next WWDC to see what Apple has in store there. But yeah, that's my opinion there.
Yeah, Swift UI is actually a pretty new thing. I'm also working and pretty happy. I think it's a really, really good framework. And I think, again, Steve Jobs said the great artists steal. He quoted Picasso. But I think Swift UI in a way is stolen from React and Redux and from those programming models because they just work so well.
It has more of a declarative nature, right?
Yeah. So definitely feels inspired from those models. But what kind of products do you like, and what inspires you in general? Like, is it like products, people, places, some art, or what are you using for the inspiration to, for example, to develop CodeEdit?
Yeah. So I will say that from the very beginning of my career, and even when I started learning from the early age of 14, I've always compared myself to the very best. Not in an unhealthy way, but just as a means to motivate me to be that much better. And so if I see something online or I see something wherever that I really like and I think they did a great job, Raycast being one of them.
Raycast, we know it.
Yep. I compare what I'm doing to that, and not just Raycast. There are a whole host of other things that I'm inspired by, but and I use it to as kind of a shoot for the stars, kind of approach. But I think for the most part, I'm most inspired by the community members that are a part of this project, and also those people that I interact with on a daily basis. There are some very intelligent people that I associate with, and I think it's kind of a joint effort where we all pitch in what we can, and just the camaraderie and the community is just amazing, and I'm seeing that more than ever with the direction CodeEdit is heading in. Ever since it's really began to be somewhat viral in how fast it's grown. For example, I had a hard time initially juggling it with my job. I don't work at CodeEdit, and so
Yeah, for sure.
it's something that we're all working on the side of all of our other jobs, or sometimes school, and because of that, it can be very difficult when people need help or are asking questions, or with all the code reviews that need to take place. Some people are blocked because of certain things, and I need to attend to it. So, anyways, that was getting very difficult to do with my job, and so I just reached out to the community and I said, "Hey, I can't do this alone." And there were some of the contributors that stepped up and said, "All right, I want to help maintain. I want to help review code. I want to help respond to people's questions." And for that, I am extremely grateful. But that also goes to show what the strength of the community, and it's very enlightening to see people step up like that.
I guess the main point is that it is so much. There is so much demand and need for a native Mac text editor or code editor that could do just a bit more than TextEdit, a bit more than let's say. There's nothing like TextEdit, to be honest. And there's one I know which is in a way similar, but it's not as ambitious with plugin architecture and modularity support, and even in the looks, it's not as close to Xcode. as CodeEdit. And how do you find right now? Would you have some tips for other open source participants who want to either start contributing to CodeEdit or they are working on something else in the open source world, and how to manage that with a job or school or other tasks?
Yeah. First of all, I would say just start in contributing to MD. We have some good guides on how to get started in the project. But for those starting in open source in general, it's a completely foreign concept for some, because it's all work that you're not really getting paid for, but also work that is going to be highly valuable um, to all people in the community. And I would just say that there are so many applications, so many tools, so many frameworks that we benefit from that are all open source. And in my opinion, the least I can do is give back to the community that I take from. And but to those that want to get involved, I would say just start on something small, especially if you're not as comfortable. That's fine. We all have community members that are ready and willing to help get started. And so that, yeah, I would just say don't get discouraged. And we're all at different levels. I'm myself am new to Swift, and but that's not a bad thing, because every one of us are at different places.
And what would be your advice for people who are already like contributing to open source and want to incorporate that into their life, and they have to manage it somehow because they have school or job or family, and how to find time for that?
Yeah, contribute where you can. Obviously, don't sacrifice. Don't kill yourself trying to contribute. But I think open source contribution can be very, very beneficial, because you are exposed to uh, so many different kinds of development styles and uh, people of different backgrounds, that you would just simply not get with work, with interacting with a very small team, even if you work on a larger team at work, because the projects that you're working on are very limited. But
Very
juggling,
focused.
exactly. But as far as managing your time seeing where you can contribute to open source, nights, weekends, they're all good times. I I honestly, I see this as a hobby, or as a pastime to me. This is fun. I do enjoy things like playing the piano and scuba diving and stuff like that. But there is legitimately some just pure satisfaction that I get in participating in this, and it's unlike anything else. So
Yeah, I think it's a good, very good point. Like taking it as a hobby, and in general, what you gain from the open source community is exposure to different projects. And my advice would be for people who just start learning, let's say Swift or anything else, is instead of going through those default projects like a to-do list or maybe some social network project, just go to the and check out the real open source big apps and understand. Because at least if at some level, if you want to learn software architecture, those small projects are just useless because they don't have those challenges that the big projects have. And the software architecture is all about solving those challenges in a more refined and a more approachable way. And you simply can't learn something on a small project. No matter how many hours you practice, you have to go big and you have to go wide. You have to explore different things, how different projects are solving something, and then you incorporate that into your head, into your knowledge, and you are much better at your work because you learn something from there.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, the experience that you get from this is just unbelievable. And you can then turn around and apply it to your current job, or if you have other projects, you can apply it to those. It's truly invaluable what you can get from the open source community, and I think that's a lot of the appeal to working on open source projects for many people. And for others, that may be trying to look for a job, maybe they just graduated school. They can start experience right now by working on a project like this.
Yeah, I think I'll definitely agree with you on this part. Is that I wish the only thing I wish was that I have started, let's say, my own open source journey earlier, because it gets you stand out so much in the job market if you have a person with a good GitHub profile, with a lot of popular projects, and without. It doesn't, like, the experience doesn't matter. It clearly shows that you know how to code and how to do the things. So it's definitely a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thinking of short and long term, what would be your end goal for the CodeEdit? What do you think that now the project is successful? Now it's succeeded.
For the most part, I would say success for us is measured a lot different than success for any other project out there in terms of business. This is not a company, and so therefore we cannot measure success by dollars, by financial means. But for me, I measure success from GitHub stars, and by whenever we're ready, downloads. If we the amounts of feedback that we're getting from CodeEdit. So we have a feedback mechanism in place in CodeEdit for users to submit feedback. And if we get some positive or negative feedback, that would be a good means to measure success. But as far as what my end goal is, I want to build a tool that people love using. I want to build something that people really enjoy the work that they're producing as a result of using this tool, and that's my end goal. And that may not be for the next little bit, but that's something that we strive to attain.
Anyway, would the end goal be that to build a tool that people just don't notice, in a way, if you think about it? They're using but don't notice it.
One thing that I will say, one design principle that has really stuck is good user interfaces are invisible.
Yeah.
And so I absolutely agree that we want to make this seamless. We want to make the user feel like they're, as you said, using that bicycle with direct manipulation.
Direct, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing, just as a side note, that's one thing that I really enjoy with the trackpad, as opposed to a physical mouse, because I feel that it is the most direct form of human interaction. You're actually touching and interacting with your machine in a way that you just can't do with a mouse, with gestures and the like. So.
Yeah, I do agree. Have you tried iPad? It's even more direct.
You're exactly right. Yep.
Yeah. I think this notion of direct manipulation is sort of stems through the whole Apple ecosystem, and from my understanding, they think about the product as very holistically. So it's not like the phone that vibrates or plays the sound, but let's say the vibration, the the haptic response and the sound and the visuals are part of the whole product and part of the what you're interacting, this creating this illusion of real direct control of something that there is not even there. Like there is no an object you manipulate. It's all illusion, but it feels like you're holding it there. So this is something to strive for with the text editor as well.
The immersion in design will 100% drive user engagement because they are immersed. They can interact directly with it. They have those haptics. They have the visual cues. It all ties very much together, and we can't do all of it obviously with CodeEdit, but we can certainly do as much as we can.
And this is great you mentioned the trackpad, because that's something I've been also thinking of, because all the cross-platform people, they just don't understand, don't bother it. Like trackpad is the thing that clicks. It's good there is a click response, but they have no idea of it. That it can also do the haptic response when you rotate something, when you try to delete something. This is sort of, they don't even care about. And because Windows can do it, so no one should be able to do it. And this is where the edge is, right?
Windows laptops are notoriously bad at trackpads. And I think it's given a lot of people a bad taste of trackpads. And so that's why they wouldn't want to use a trackpad. But I think the attention to detail that Apple has put forth towards the very subtle things in a trackpad is just incredible, from the haptic feedback to the inertia and scrolling and everything of that nature. The gestures especially, it just feels very nice to use.
Yeah, you can do so much more with Apple trackpad than Windows in the feedback you're getting. And even thinking of the trackpad itself, it's like 3 times as big as the Windows trackpad usually. So you have more room to work.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so I guess that's where the edge is, using those small details, leveraging those small possibilities of the platform in your work to enable users to be more direct and more in touch with the content they are working with.
Absolutely, yeah.
What are your thoughts on the touch bar, by the way? Do you like it? Do you don't like it? What's your thinking?
I think on paper it was a great idea. If you've noticed, Apple has had a huge aversion to enabling the touchscreen on a Mac, and
still is.
And still is. Something that I necessarily don't agree with. I think it might be a good idea in some cases, just for convenience, not for everyday use necessarily. And so they went with the touch bar, and your hands are already down on the keyboard. And so in theory, it would be great to just interact with something on the same plane as your hands are already interacting with your keyboard. But the problem is, and I don't know if they didn't user test this as much, but I would consistently inadvertently touch the touch bar and either put my computer to sleep when I'm trying to do some kind of keyboard shortcut, and accidentally tap on a button on the touch bar. And that would drive me absolutely insane. Which is why I think they got rid of the touch bar in this new iteration of Macs.
And if you think, actually, it's a very interesting notion. Like the touch bar itself is not coming from anywhere, I think, within Apple. It's actually been on the mixing consoles in the audio industry. It has been like since 90s. There were like digital mixing consoles, and they had something similar to touch bar. They had the control strip, and you have all the faders, all the controls, And the idea was not like to have something to touch, but more that you control something and there's a small display that changes according to your context. So you, let's say, touch one channel and the whole surface is being repurposed for that specific channel, and you can like do the EQing and compression on that channel, and then you touch another one and changes the context and so forth. So the idea of programmatic control surface, let's call it like that, has been there, and I think the TouchBar takes it a bit sort of further, getting the direct interaction. And I think like what TouchBar was lacking is that you don't have any feedback, you don't have the tactile feedback, you don't have the haptic feedback, which could be their sound, nothing there. And in the end, it's sort of, you can't interact it as if you were interacting with a keyboard. And that was what sort of made it doomed from the start. And if you think about like,
Yeah, I will say that, I was a DJ for a short while when I was younger, and so I can really appreciate that. And I can understand that it was really nice being able to slide multiple sliders at once, or turn knobs and press buttons, because it was all there. Whereas with the computer, for the most part, you're pretty limited to one interaction at a time.
Yeah.
And I think that is a big shortcoming of the Mac in a lot of regards. Something that you that you don't get with the iPad. I think the iPad does a good job because you can interact with multiple things at once. And so there is that concern in as far as user input goes, especially with physical mouse.
Yeah, and Mac is sort of in between, because you have the trackpad, which is sort of not so iPad, but not just the mouse. You have the gestures and everything. And I think that this is sort of also was like a nail to the TouchBar. It takes so much effort to do something for the trackpad, which is on far more Macs than the TouchBar, and not a lot of developers put into that and making that accessible. So that could be that that's sort of the case why in the end failed. But what's your opinion on the return of the function keys and the Apple Silicon in general?
Very welcome. I very much like interacting with the volume, the display, anything of that nature with function keys. The downside of it, though, is that it's pretty stuck. It's pretty static. There's there's no changing those keys. So I've noticed that Apple has things like mission control and Siri and some software features that they have tied to their hardware keys. And if they ever decide to go a different direction with their software, well, their keys, they will reflect something that is outdated, and that's not necessarily a good thing. With the Touch Bar, they, again, on paper, you were able to update the iconography or whatever it is in accordance to the software. And so that was a good thing about the Touch Bar that you don't get with the function rows, the function row of keys. So there's trade-offs for sure.
Yeah, and if you think Apple is making the same mistake in a way that Porsche was doing with their cars, they actually replaced one of the I think it was band control that you had to use the touch on the screen, and it was automatic. So I think Apple and Porsche are very similar companies in their design aesthetics and philosophy of this directness of control and say attention to detail. And they sort of made the same mistake, because everyone was hating on the Porsche, and I tried that too. So it's not very intuitive to go and find the find some sort of menu so you can move your vent to the side or somewhere, like so that the air blows there, because it's very natural to just try and direct it yourself. And that's sort of where both of these companies are coming from. And I guess that's where, in a way, you shouldn't bet too much on automation, like and stick to the directness and clarity, and in a way with CodeEdit as well, because we have like Vim on one side, very direct, very manual, and I don't know what could be on the other side, like a Word or Pages. You paste something, and it will like completely change your text and get not what you wanted there.
Right,
Completely
right.
automatic.
Yeah, yeah. No, agreed there.
And I guess my last question would be, if you met Steve Jobs right now, what would you talk about, and what kind of question would you ask him?
Yeah. Um, I'd probably ask him, what is your greatest fear? What was your greatest fear in the process of starting up Apple? How did that fear motivate you to make Apple that much better? You know, what really drove you because of some of those um, things that you saw might have been maybe weak points of the direction Apple was going at that point.
You mean the beginning, like the 70s?
Yeah, whenever he first started up Apple,
Or
and
Apple 98, the comeback?
maybe both. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
there were probably strengths and weaknesses that he saw in Apple in both time frames, for sure. But I think that would be pretty interesting to know. So
Yeah, so thanks so much for answering this question and coming up to my channel. And I think this was really interesting interview, talking more about your project and how it's going. And I hope it's not the last time, and it's not the only person from CodeEdit team that is here. I'm very interested in the project success and really following it and contributing sometimes. As well. So by the way, all of the links to the CodeEdit, Austin, and my social medias, they are all below. And make sure to subscribe. There'll be more videos coming up like this, and maybe more technical ones. And if you have some topics, just let me know in the comments. We'll make one more video for you.
yeah, thanks for having me on.